Welcome to Integrate Yourself, everybody. I'm your host, Allison Pillow, and you can find me at AllisonPillow.com and finally thrivingbook.com. Today, I'm here with a very special guest, Chase Tollison. He's a lifelong fitness enthusiast who now integrates movement and lifestyle coaching into identity creation and life coaching. After the military, Chase opened a gym only to realize that the work that truly matters is on a soul level, and that the consistency we build in fitness is often a result of doing the proper inner work. Isn't that the truth? Thanks so much, Chase, for coming on the show today. I'm so excited you're here.
I'm very excited to be here. The episode of you on my show just released today, so this is a nice flow that we're recording today.
Yeah, it was a great episode. It was so fun to talk to you about all that stuff. It's rare that I get to get into all of those things. So, definitely check Chase's show out. He's got a show called The Primal Pathway podcast.
Yep.
And you can find him also on Instagram at coach_Chase_Tollison.
Yep.
And and then chasetolleson.com, and I'll put all those links on the show notes as well. Tollison.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. So Chase, love it if you would start by sharing some things about yourself, because you started out in the military. I'd love to hear the story of how you got into being a fitness professional, and even beyond that, really helping people with their mindset around that, and even just change or create a new reality for people, because you've got an amazing program you're offering. We'll get into that later on. But first, I'd love to hear the story of how you came to do what you're doing now.
Absolutely. This is a fun one. So when I was 4 years old, my dad had a weight bench in his bedroom. Like, fitness was a thing. He would run, I would ride my bike next to him. It's just, he moved. Movement was a thing. I was a skinny kid growing up too. And I have a big head too. I wear a size 8 hat. So there was an imbalance there. And I was like, well, I want to gain weight. So I look somewhat balanced. And so I'm a big, I was a teenage boy who was skin and bones. So there was that. And that's how I got into fitness. And that was the one thing that I really drove effort towards in high school. I played baseball outside of school. After school, I had little direction, because growing up, I was going to be a third generation airline pilot. Well, I was in 8th grade when 9/11 happened. My dad didn't work for 6 months. The funds weren't there after that for Chase to learn how to fly when he was 14. So that all unraveled very quickly. Couple that with my parents almost getting divorced when I was 15, just the direction fizzled out. So I stayed around town for 4 years after high school, and I attempted to go to local, junior college, community college. And I say attempted because I had a 0.742 GPA, 0.742. My buddies would text me when I was sitting in class waiting for it to start and be like, hey, we got a blunt outside. I'd be like, well, I'm gonna go smoke some weed.
And we all know how, the GPA or
Yeah.
that translates into life, right? I mean, it's
Totally.
just, yeah, totally. Yeah.
It's and I stopped doing homework in 3rd grade. Like, it wasn't the cannabis. It was, why do I need to prove to you that I know this when I already know it on the test? But that we can put a pin on that and come back to how it's just programming us to take our work home and not have any work-life separation. And I spent 4 years around town partying. The one thing that I was consistent with was working out. Still little focus around health, right? Well, I was like, well, I got to do something with myself. And it was a gotta back then. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? Oh, I could have a career as a air traffic controller instead of an airline pilot, because that industry is in the tank. So let's go talk with the Air Force. Let's try and be an air traffic controller with the Air Force for 4 years. And then we'll go and we'll get out. And I'm so glad that this didn't work out, because that's like one of the most high stress jobs out there. You want to talk about incidents of heart attacks and stress related illness, air traffic control. So I talked with the Air Force. They couldn't get me air traffic control because you need a certain clearance. And I had a possession charge on my record for when I was 18. Irony being that Illinois cannabis is now recreational. So I wanted to go spec war in the Air Force. And they were like, well, just sign this paper. You'll get spec work. Little did I know, they actually had me sign a paper to leave with no job. And then they would just give me whatever they wanted once I was out there. And I could try to, submit a request to jump over to special warfare once I was there. I got out of that and I started talking with the Army. They couldn't give me a Ranger contract for the same reason. I went over to the Navy's office and they told me, yeah, we're actively building the SEALs right now. Go get your eyes fixed because you have 2400 vision and you can't wear contacts when you're jumping out of planes. And we will give you a SEAL contract and you will get to go to buds and try. There's a 70% attrition rate. I would get my shot. So my second cousin gets wind of this. He is working missile defense in the Pentagon. He's my mom's cousin. And he goes, Amy, it's my mom, you don't want him to do that. They're paid assassins. They're trained killers. You don't want him to do that. And he sends me the book Lone Survivor by Marcus Luttrell. This was later made into a movie with Mark Wahlberg playing Marcus. Um, it backfired on him because I was a 21-year-old hothead and reading about a guy getting stranded on the side of a mountain, shot at for a couple weeks, and a bunch of broken bones. The reality of that wasn't there, and I was like, "Oh hell yes, let's go do this." And I tore through that book in 72 hours, put my car up for sale to pay for LASIK, and spent the next year running, swimming, doing push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups. And I go to contract in, and on January 26, 2010, and they tell me, sorry, there was a new instruction sent out 5 days ago. Your misdemeanor is no longer waiverable to get in as a SEAL. So at this point, I'm like, so I made one last ditch effort. I got in touch with my second cousin. Even though he didn't want me in the SEALs, he wanted me to be able to pursue what I wanted to pursue. He handed my package to the deputy chief of naval personnel. He's like a 2 or 3 star admiral, right? And Admiral reads it, goes, sorry, can't help him. I don't believe his story. Irony, again, being that the story that I wrote was one that the recruiters told me to write so it would get pushed through faster with less questions.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, all right, get me out of town as fast as possible. Fast in 2010 was usually 2 to 3 months. They go, okay, you're an engine man and you leave in 9 days. It's like, oh, okay. So I spent 4 years in the Navy. Before the Navy, I'd been introduced to CrossFit by some veterans that my dad worked with. I spent 4 years in the Navy, did 3 deployments, grew very disenfranchised with a broken leadership and advancement system. There are some really, really outstanding individuals in the military. There are also a whole lot of people who are using it as a babysitting service for fully grown men.
Hmm.
You know, hey, tie your shoes. Oh, thank you. I didn't know to do that on my own. Um, so it goes both ways. So I got out of the Navy with the intent to open a gym, and I did. And I opened a CrossFit gym. I was like, we're going to go to regionals. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And my lens quickly shifted. So, well, yeah, regionals would be cool, but everybody that's coming here just wants to be healthy.
Hmm.
So let's do that. And then I started realizing that a lot of people that just want to be healthy were still chasing, they would get into fitness and start chasing these big numbers. So these certain body types, so these performance numbers, or start tracking their food like an athlete, when all they really wanted was to feel how they think these really fit people feel. And I started incorporating some mindset. After a couple of my social media posts, one of my clients told me, you should start a blog. So I had a blog for a bit there. And it's called A Life. It's since expired. Don't go looking for it. Although there's still some, like it's not hosted anymore. It was called A Life Worth Chasing, So I
Oh, yeah.
made a play on my name and did that. And then kept incorporating, individualized movement, more mindset, lifestyle stuff. And then, fast forward to 2020. Yeah. 2017, first, I was listening to Barbell Shrug religiously and heard Mark England on there. Got into vocabulary, core language upgrade. That was like, whoa, watch that like 2 or 3 times back to back to back. Integrated a lot of that. All of my coaches would go through a core language upgrade when they started working for me. And then 2020, we had Mark England on my gym's podcast. This was before he was really out there advertising in Lifted. He would just come on and talk about the words. It actually, at the end of the show, I was like, "Hey, by the way, what's this in Lifted thing?" And he's like, "Oh, let's jump on a call afterward." And about half an hour after that podcast ended, I was signed up for Lifted Level One Group Nine. Um, Going into week two, they had already done their kickoff call. So did level one, signed up for level two as soon as level one ended, signed up for level three while level two was still going. Um, that being said, I had experience with psychedelics and other kinds of work going into the language. And when I found that, I was like, oh, this makes all of that super practical. And it still is all of that. Like
Yeah.
on from the outside, and Lifted isn't advertised as, hey, it's energy work. And it's some of the most powerful energy work I've ever experienced or administrated. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, well, what did you think that was a sign from the universe, if we could put it that way, where you just kept getting blocked when you were trying to kind of push
mm,
that, that profession on yourself, and
it,
they wasn't working, and then it kept directing you in all these to all these other places. What came to mind there for you? At some point,
I'm,
did you say, "Oh my gosh, this is
I'm,
crazy"?
I'm so glad you asked because my mom has always said, everything happens for a reason. Shut up. No, mom, no, don't, whatever. Look at this. Like I got my dreams got ripped out from under me and this and that. I sold my car. And she got a good I told you so moment because I was sitting in my barracks room in San Diego about a month after I got to my ship. And I had been out rock climbing with some buddies at a rock climbing gym. And we were on a bouldering wall. So you're not harnessed in. And I fell off the bouldering wall.
Mm.
Left foot landed on the pad. My right foot landed on the edge of the pad. And I rolled my ankle, like my ankle bone went down right past my foot down into the pea gravel. So I'm sitting in my barracks room, drinking a fifth of Jack to myself, boot on my foot, feeling sorry for myself because now I can't run, I can't swim, I can't stay in shape to try and get a SEAL contract. Um, and I'm starting to hear rumors that my command probably won't even let me go. So I go, well, maybe I'll just start car shopping. So I'm gonna go on deployment. I'll get a bunch of tax-free money. And I'm like, well, instead of a new car, what if I get another 80s Camaro? So I get on this website that's geared strictly towards 80s Camaros. And I go in the for sale ads. And at the top of it, 88 IROC Z, fresh paint, new engine, carbureted 350. I'm like, huh, that sounds like my kind of car. I click on it. Here's my car. I called my dad that night, started reminiscing about our first Camaros. And uh, that was a Friday night. He called me back on Monday and said, hey, you owe me $4,800. Your car's in my garage. So to answer your
Wow.
question, when I was going through that, and even for a while afterward, I was thinking, what the hell? Like, why? Why is this happening? Why am I running into blocks everywhere I go? When I was 21, I didn't have the awareness to think, well, hey, if this door is being shut, let's look for one that's open. I kept wanting to take a battering ram to the door that was closed. And then that car was the first sign. And it was actually the story I worked in level one was that Navy SEAL rug getting pulled out from under me story. Um, and then the biggest win I celebrated in level two was the fact that I got in shape enough to be qualified to get that contract. So it took until 2020 to really flip the script on that one. And it happened in 2010.
Wow. Yeah, it's sometimes it takes a while, and it's something we all go through. We all go through that on some level, where we try to push through because that's what we've been taught to do, but then we don't have that awareness or reflective ability to see, oh, well, maybe this isn't the direction I need to be going in. Maybe I need to just change altogether where I'm
Mm.
focusing, and it could be from meeting an unmet need that you didn't get when you're a kid, trying to get your parents' approval, all kinds of reasons that we try to push through things that might not be part of our path, right?
Yeah. and watching Black Hawk Down when I was a kid and thinking it was like the coolest thing ever, and it's like that was marketing for the US military. You
Yeah,
know, like
totally. Top Gun as well, and I just thought about
I
that when it came out the second time. I was like, "Wow, huh, they must be
I
needing more recruits,"
yep.
like
I wore out the VHS of the original Top Gun when my grandmother used to babysit me. So
Yeah, I mean, it was a good movie, I it's a classic, but at the same time, like you said, you're
it's
thinking, "Wow,"
mhm.
and we could get into that rabbit hole of the CIA being involved with the movie industry, but, you know
A lot of things. Uh,
but anyway, we won't do that right now. Yeah, but unless you'd like to, of course.
I'll go wherever we want.
But well, thanks for sharing that story, Chase, and that's really great, a great segue into what we're gonna be talking more about today, which is, how fitness can be a gateway drug, which again, we're trying to escape something sometimes, and it doesn't matter sometimes what it is. It can be fitness, it can be alcohol, it can be drugs, it can be relationships, it can be sex, it can be any of those things that we're trying to escape or detach ourselves to not see what we're not seeing,
Yeah.
to unsee what we're not seeing or whatever. So what is I know you've been working with people this past year, especially with your program on that, and mainly men, if I'm
Yep.
correct on that.
Yes. Yeah.
So what has been, your biggest I guess insight around that and the challenge for most people who are going through that?
So I started realizing this when I had my gym, and we had a couple of clients, one in particular who was an alcoholic. And if he was in the gym 7 days a week, he wasn't drinking. If he missed 2 to 3 days, he went off the deep end and started drinking. Because to your point about running away, and some people are marathon runners and they're quite literally just running away from the stories in their head. Uh, this guy was using CrossFit, which Greg Glassman just found a way to hack the runner's high for people that don't like to run. Um, and I drank the CrossFit Kool-Aid, so been there, done that. And yeah, a lot. Some people are in the gym using fitness like an alcoholic uses a bottle of tequila, and a lot of coaches are akin to drunk bartenders. And I was one of them too. I would coach from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., with a couple of breaks in there. But I would run every class at the gym, clean the gym, still hit a 90-minute session in the middle of the day, be yawning in the middle of my workout because my nervous system was just wanting a break. All the while, I had this story about the the Navy SEAL contract being pulled out from under me in my head. I had stories about, well, I'm 26 and I just got out of the Navy and now I'm living at home and I have this business that's barely even starting to be profitable. What am I even doing in my life? But what would I do instead of like address that and ask how I could, move forward out of it? I'd go work out because hey, that quiets the noise. And now you see this on Instagram and TikTok, people who, well, fitness is my therapy.
Hmm.
And movement, I mean, movement is proven to have therapeutic effects, right?
Yeah.
Antidepressive effects. That's awesome. It's a piece of the puzzle. And if we're using it only to run away from those stories, and as soon as we walk out of the gym or get done working out, we're like back in it, then what really are we doing? How can we the question I started to ask is how can we shift the workout to continue to move us forward as opposed to being the one thing that's keeping our head above water? It's, well, my workout's where I blow off steam. Okay, let's check the system and ask why it's at overpressure and constantly needs to be blown off steam.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and w- I'm guessing what you mean by coaches being
Drunk
bartenders,
bartenders.
like you just
Yeah.
described your life and what you were doing. And I remember going through that too. I mean, many coaches are sacrificing their own health to
Mhm.
just load up on the clients, right? And then I remember just saying, "Oh, sure, I'll meet you at 5 a.m. in the morning," even though I didn't really, it was like a real sacrifice for my sleep. I needed more sleep than that. I knew it, but I would just meet people
Yeah.
early on in my career, and you know, you learn as you go, but then again, it can be, as a coach, you can be an enabler, right? To demonstrate to your clients unhealthy behavior and lifestyle, so
Yeah.
that's another
Yeah.
way to look at it.
A lot of those micro gyms or CrossFit gyms, the community events are centered around drinking a lot,
Yeah, that's
you know?
weird, isn't it? I mean, it's and then the competition aspect too, which isn't super healthy. I mean, I'm not saying
Yeah.
competition is bad. It's just
It's
it's
a
almost
sport,
like,
it's not health.
yeah, exactly, exactly. It's not really, you're not finding your own joy in the process. You're comparing and competing with other people, and then also trying to get attention and your needs met through that attention. And I see that a lot on Instagram too. Again, no judgment for people, everybody's doing the best they
Yeah.
can. It's just that what I'm noticing a lot more of lately, and the reason I haven't been putting a whole bunch of, like, I don't post a lot of exercises anymore. I just put messages up, maybe with some movement
Yeah.
videos, because I'm just not going to sit there and explain why this exercise is the best exercise, because they're all good. It's just, it's not really important to me.
Yeah.
I think the more important thing to convey to people is begin to find your own joy within that,
Mhm.
and so it's a yoga of the mind in some respects, right? Like, yoga
Yeah.
originally wasn't even about movement. It was about a mindset. It was about training your mind to create the reality you'd like to create. That's how it originated.
Well said. We had Julie Fouché on the Getting Lifted podcast, and she was one of the first like superstar CrossFit athletes, right? And she said it was only after she got done competing that she realized how stressed her system and her body had been. Like, you don't realize when a lot of people do not realize when they're in it, and they think, "Well, I'm good. I'm in the best shape I've ever been." And like, you might be the strongest and the fastest and the leanest you've ever been. Are you in the best health you've ever been? So those two things
Yeah.
are different. Those are often on two different ends of the spectrum of health.
Yeah. Can you dive a little deeper into that? Because from my experience, it's one is running on adrenaline, you know,
Mhm.
where you're feeling that high, that's adrenaline, right?
Yeah,
And so you don't want to be on that all the time. But what is your take on that, Chase?
that's what blew CrossFit up. That's what created CrossFit as a massive movement. Is the CrossFit Games got publicized? They got put on ESPN. They got Reebok as a sponsor, and everybody saw these people. Even in 2010, too, the people at CrossFit Games were training. I mean, they were training a lot, and they were training like 60 to 90 minutes a day. You know, um, now they're professional athletes. Even then, though, it was they were training too much for grandma and grandpa. There was no litmus test in CrossFit specifically for our grandparents, for the working professional. And when we're talking about competing, whether it be CrossFit or triathlons or strongman or powerlifting, if you go in and you create a competitive nature around your fitness, well, then you are constantly aiming to drive adaptation over and over and over again.
Mm,
And the stress
yeah.
hormone response that happens there, like, you can't recover. In negation of knowledge, you cannot recover. Guys are going to have serious problems performing in bed if their biggest eh, focus is performing in the gym. And then,
Yeah, that's true.
so when we take that and is that good in small doses? Sure. If you want it. It's been a while since I did anything super high intensity, though. A lot of people, like for me, growing a business, doing the boring stuff, even though I preach that the boring stuff works in fitness, is the thing that I really get to focus on a lot, because like that does not come second nature to me. The boring stuff in fitness works. You can lift some weights 3 days a
Yeah.
week and go for a walk every day and eat real foods, but that doesn't sell though. And that
Yeah.
the scary thing about that for people is it requires radical responsibility. Because if the boring stuff works and their fitness journey hasn't worked, then that's on them.
Yeah, exactly. It's the mundane, right?
Hmm.
Um, I'm gonna pause for just a second. This light is making me so hot. I gotta turn it off.
Oh,
Sorry.
you're good.
My face is turning red.
I'm getting used to a Bosu ball as a chair, so I'm sitting over here readjusting.
Ah. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
All good.
So, yeah, that's so much better. I guess I shouldn't be using that light anymore. Shouldn't. I'm not going to anymore.
There we
It's
go.
like so hot, unless it's wintertime.
Using
Okay.
like a grow light for your
Yeah, I didn't realize it was so hot. Jesus.
yeah.
Okay, so going back to what we were talking about. Yeah, I love that perspective because it's so practical. And that's what I wanted to bring back to fitness too, is the practicality. Because
Mhm.
you have been an athlete, I've been an athlete. We both know what it takes to be that kind of an athlete, that
Yeah.
competitive athlete. And it's not something that's sustainable for the rest of your life. Like health is about what you can sustain for the rest of your life, how you can create happiness in your life through having a body that you love being in, that feels good, that's energetic, right? And
Yep.
so once you can't do that competition anymore, you burn yourself out. Then who are you? And that's what we're getting to here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because for my version of that, I ran until I broke a bone in my right foot while training to trying to get in shape to be fast enough and enduring enough to go to buds. And like I would start running again every time it started feeling just good enough to start running because well, if that happens when I'm out there on the beach in San Diego, I'm just going to need to plow through it, you know. Um, and and to your point and to what we've been circling around, we're all a lot of people are chasing a feeling that they keep chasing and keep breaking their body down with. And when you take that look inside and with whatever modality you so choose, whatever you call it, inner child work, shadow work, all of it. I'm a fan of the enlifted method. And you actually take a look at your stories because a lot of times we're using fitness to run away from things, but we don't realize that there's a 20-pound weight attached to our ankle. And
Yeah.
then it's dragging something behind us for yards. Um, and when we slow down, and like that's the thing, right? Because so many people are moving so fast. And when we slow down and reach down and take a look at that weight, we actually have the key to it in our pocket. We just have to learn how to use it.
I love that metaphor. That is a great metaphor for that. Oh my
Thank you.
gosh,
That's
that's
brand new.
amazing. You just came up with it in real time?
Hmm.
Oh my
Hmm.
gosh, that's good stuff. Um, yeah, so yeah, when you have the key to it, like you said, and you unlock that, take the weight off, then you really can start working on and using the tools that you mentioned. All that stuff is great. It's just what someone resonates with mostly, right? Whatever works, works. It's just doing the work is the biggest challenge for most people. So you've been, I met you through Enlifted as well. And you're also a host on the Enlifted podcast, Get
Yep.
Enlifted. And so you're really, this stuff really works for you. It's worked for your clients. And so you've experienced firsthand how language creates our reality on a physical and a metaphysical level. And for any goal. So like it's so great that I love that you bring up the mundane because I know it's everything. People expect things now to be so sexy and shiny and like they only think it's so external, and we
Yeah.
we forget that it's really about what's going on inside. And so whatever you're expressing is what gets created in your reality as well. So what gets expressed comes from within. And so, yeah, I love that you brought that up because it's everything, right?
Yeah. And with what gets expressed, and I think I still have this book sitting right here. I may have talked about when you came, but The Web of Meaning by
Oh
Jeremy
yeah.
Lent. Um, and he goes deep into entrainment in there, which anything from faucets to women's cycles to the waves of the ocean with the moon, things are synchronized via tiny vibrations floating around us. And the big example of this, and the one where it was first seen back in the 1600s, is grandfather clocks. They will swing in
Yeah,
unison when placed in a room together. So if everything is being influenced by vibration, then it stands to reason that the whole like control your vibration, control your life is there's something to it. There's actual science to it, as opposed to, people see it on social media, or some people will even regurgitate it without like they believe it. They know it on a soul level. They have yet to understand that mechanism there. And when you control that, you become a magnet. I wrote on my workout whiteboard this morning. I still have whiteboards, even though I have a home gym, because I like writing affirmations during my workout. Because if I'm driving force and driving adaptation in my body, well, then I'm in a heightened state. And what better thing to do in that heightened state than smile and read my affirmations?
that's a great idea.
So I wrote, clients flow to me.
I
And
love
then
that.
in the middle of that workout, I got a DM from somebody who wanted to work with me.
See how quickly that happens?
It's,
Wow.
and sometimes it's not even setting that intention. Sometimes it's doing the thing that your gut tells you to do. There's another instance where I was putting together a cart my wife had bought for in our kitchen. And I was like, man, I could be doing some work right now, but it took me like 2 hours in the middle of the day, right? Put it together. I get done. There's a message from someone. Hey, can you send me the sign up link? I'm ready to start.
Wow.
So it's when you, I've put aside the word abundance and started using affluence, because it comes from the Latin to flow. So on my whiteboard right here in my office, I live in affluence, because when you flow, things come and the right things come.
That's
Uh,
beautiful. I
thank
love
you.
that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Flow has been coming, that message has been coming to me as well recently. And yeah, it's interesting that you brought that up. I was going to share a story that I've been this the better part of this year been working on, just psychically like go moving towards what I'm focusing on, whatever I see right away, or whatever my focus gets pulled to, that's where I go towards, or what I feel like I need. So there's this game that we play, that our family plays, called well, it's Trivial Pursuit, but it's on the video. So it's like
Okay.
a, I don't know, what, one of those gaming systems, right?
Yeah.
And it's so basically they give you a question, and then there's multiple choice answers that you have to pick with your controller. And I just stopped after a while. I said, let me try something, because I started doing this a little bit. I was like, oh, every time I would be guided to an answer, it was correct, even if I hadn't read the question.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to try this like little exercise in focus. And so each time a question came up, I would just see where my focus immediately went first. And then I'd pick that answer and it'd be correct. And if I didn't, and the ones that I immediately focused on but didn't pick were the correct answer. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, what is this? This is amazing." So, um now, like, if I'm in the kitchen and my eye looks at a glass of water, I'm like, "Oh, I need some water." Or
Mm.
I get guided to see, oh, amino acid pills. I'm gonna take 3 of those right now, and it kind of it's starting to, it just starts to pull me intuitively. My focus pulls me intuitively to what I need in that moment. And I've been practicing that lately, and it's been pretty profound. It
Yeah.
seems really simple and playful, but I mean, I think the best things are, right? I mean,
100%. And like that poses an interesting question. One that I have, this is the first time asking it this way. Is ADD just, is at least a portion of ADD? Because some of it is heavy metals and stuff like that. And is some of ADD or ADHD kids who are so in tune with their intuition that they're like, why am I here? You know,
mhm. Yeah.
um, when I was taking my ACTs my junior year of high school, by the end of it, I was just fried. It was like and I would like halfway read a question and just select an answer. Boom, boom. And the last one was science, right? I got 24s across the board and a 25 in math. That I got a 24 in science too. Just
Wow.
boom, boom, boom. Anytime I've ever changed an answer on a test, it's been wrong. When I go back and I overthink it, there is. I mean, one of the tracks on my little philosophy album that I have on Spotify is called "Awaken Your Intuition." Like going with our gut and with where our soul or higher self or however you want to term it uh, leads us to go leads to some pretty cool things.
I agree. Yeah, and that's how we get into the metaphysical aspects of health because
Yeah.
then we're working on more in the quantum field, which is the energetic and it's what translates into the physical. And it's not really a logical place or something you can really think yourself through, right? That's why sometimes there's no explanation for it. It's just what you're called to.
Well,
And mhm.
did you hear about the Nobel Prize that was just awarded this week?
No, no.
And it's actually like a Nobel Prize for quantum physics. Like it's saying it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we actually there are particles communicating across the universe between each other, judging by this experiment. Um,
Wow, that's incredible.
yeah,
Amazing timing too.
yeah, of course. I mean, I was laying in bed with my wife and my dog and our daughter in the bassinet this morning, catching up on some sleep because newborn. And I
Congratulations, by the way.
thank you. And I was thinking, I was like, man, it's been a while since I used protein powder. But like, I'm like low on protein these days. I can tell like some chocolate protein powder would be good, but can I find a really good way? Maybe I'll do collagen. Get out of bed. There's a text from my sister. Hey, I figured you guys could use some protein, so I ordered some chocolate collagen to your door for
Oh my God.
you. Just
That is amazing. So you're
yeah,
tuning in. You're tuning into that higher frequency.
yeah. When
Yeah.
I was up at 2 a.m. night before last, I was it's like, oh yeah, Dispenza and Stuart Wilde talk about meditating between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. It's like, well, I'm up at 2. I might as well. So
Yeah, if you have an infant, you're gonna be up at 2. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. To your point with what you're talking about fitness being physical and metaphysical, that's the main reason that my coaching practice retains any sort of movement or nutrition coaching. Because when I first got into the enlifted method, I was like, yeah, I'll take story work only clients. And then somebody's sitting there in the middle of a story work session on the other side of the screen, sucking down Marlboros the whole time, eating McDonald's. And I mean, art, if everything is vibration, which good luck arguing with that with science these days, everything is vibration. You're not solid matter. We're just vibrating atoms at a certain speed. And if we can figure out how to slow that vibration down, we can walk or speed it up, we can walk through walls and match the density. It's
Yeah.
science. Uh, so everything is vibration. More and more people are agreeing on that. So if everything is energy and we can move that energy and harness that energy using our body, well, then our body is the conduit through which that energy flows. And it makes sense to have it as clean and as healthy as possible in order to be able to, as effectively as possible, manipulate that energy in our favor.
I 100% agree with that, Chase. I mean, I always think of the body as being an antenna for
Mm,
as a channel for that energy to flow. So, to your point with the flow, it's like you have to have those open channels for the energy to flow, just like anything else, right?
yeah. Yeah. Now, the question becomes, though, where did the channels get closed? You
Yeah.
know, was it school? Was it past life stuff? Was it generational trauma? Like, what closed the channels, and how do we get them open back up? You know,
Exactly. And that's what it sounds like you help your clients with as well.
yeah. One of my talking about the fitness aspect. One of my favorite was one of my early clients that, um, and he's still like one of my star pupils. He'll send me quotes from books that I've recommended to him, like, "Hey, just read this one, and it lines up so well," and this and that. Like, he'll still post on Instagram every once in a while, talking about things he learned from me. And he came to me, and he was a member. Oh, here's another. He was another abracadabra moment, by the way. because I was on a strong coach call. And I told Jared Davis that I would be growing my brand via podcast and speaking engagement in the future. Like I DMs and all that. I'm like, podcast and speaking engagement. I got off that call and there was a message from this gentleman. Hey, I heard you on this podcast. My friends might host, and I like your message. I want to work with you. So that
Wow.
worked.
Just
Yeah,
keeps coming, huh?
they just keep coming. I mean, we can talk about how we manifested my daughter's birthday too. But
Today? You said today's your daughter's birthday?
no, a week ago was,
Oh.
but we manifested my daughter's birthday.
Oh,
Um,
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
yeah.
it sounds like you're an amazing manifester. I
All
mean,
right.
you're an intentional manifester, I should say. We all manifest, right? But it's
Right.
yeah, yeah, that's incredible.
My wife has had a few unintentional where it's like, oh yeah, you have a lot of power here. Like she brought some drawers home from Target and they were taped shut and they were little plastic drawers for the closet. She's like, they didn't even check these at the checkout. Like somebody could have stole something. Just put it in there and walk out with it. She opens it up and there's this cute little tie dye sweatshirt that she still wears,
Oh,
perfect her
oh,
size.
that's
So
amazing.
like, yeah. Um, Back to this gentleman that I was talking about. I knew where we were. That Mark England told me. It's like that's the secret to any good rant, any good tangent. You pull it back to where you were.
Full
uh,
circle.
Full circle. When we started working together, he had been a member of the individuals whose podcast I've been on at their gym, and he would work out 5 days a week. He played rugby in a league. He had played rugby professionally when he was younger, so it was like this go hard athlete mentality. We worked together for 12 weeks, and by 6 weeks in, he was working out 3 days a week. Had cut down his commitments to the rugby team and actually told them that he was going to stop playing for a while and was going on hikes on the weekend to get out and enjoy nature. That's realigning your relationship with fitness. And he was able to do that because he dug into his stories. He worked the things that matter. He took that honest look at himself instead of riding these stress hormones and convincing yourself that you don't need to take that look because you're in the gym 5 days a week.
Right. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's a beautiful example of how you can, look at your stories, examine your stories, release your stories, and then enjoy and
Mhm.
even decide what you'd like to do for your health and fitness instead
Yeah.
of just being dragged into, you know, that mentality of never being able to rest or enjoy it, right? That's suffering.
Absolutely. And on the metaphysical side, him and other people that I've worked with, it's like, oh, things just started happening for me once I cleared my stories. Um, and the Billy story.
Yeah.
I had one of my clients working his Billy story. I think he was calling him Phil. And this guy, he was on two computers, right? Because he couldn't access Google Documents on one computer, but that computer worked better for Zoom. And it was like his work computer, so he couldn't get on Google Docs outside of his organization. So he's over here typing up his Billy story. Then he'd come back over here and talk to me, and we're working it. And we go back, and I think we went to somewhere else, but that computer shut down that he had his Google document on, right? Just out of the blue. When it comes back online later in the session, his Billy story is highlighted for like no apparent reason. Yeah.
Wow.
Uh, so, um,
The universe is sending a message there, huh?
yeah. So the metaphysical is real. Um, Reality is magic. Magic isn't real. Reality is magic.
I love that. That's so amazing. I love it so much. Well,
Mhm.
with the stories, what are you seeing as a pattern for a common story people tend to get blocked by in your line of work?
Mm. If we're talking about guys who are like dads who have excelled in their careers so far and are having trouble with fitness, it's often related to, well, I banged my knee up, so I can't be the soccer player I once was. or it's often I can't be as good as I once was if we're talking about fitness. And then from there, there's layers. Like let's pull on that thread, and we'll find you know the the dysfunctional relationship with a parent when they were a teenager, or things like that. On the surface level, it's often this story that they can't be as good as they once were, so why even do it? And they're still trying to identify as that past athlete as that past physical specimen that they were, and they are shelving, taking any realization of the amazing work they've done of building a family and providing for that family.
Yeah, yeah. I see that story too with I used to see it a lot more when I was in the gym with clients and they would and I even did this too, where you just have this uh you have this story about, oh, I should be doing what I used to do, or
Mm.
you're not really putting yourself in the moment of where you're at now and what you're needing now. So
Yeah.
there's like that lack of presence for yourself.
Presence. I mean, presence is the present, right?
Yeah, exactly. I love
Um,
that. Yeah. So it sounds like you are helping people really learn what their soul is calling them to do and really open up to the spirit parts of them, the energetic, the what they how they're expressing themselves on that metaphysical plane of existence, and then how that translates in the physical. I love that because that's also what I like to help people with is how to, it's not we're not going to throw away the physical because we're in the physical body, but we do have to learn how to navigate the energetic with the physical and the interplay between the two. So I think it's beautiful that you're helping people with that. That's very powerful work, and not many people go there. So usually in our industry, you either see people work on nutrition, fitness, or mindset.
Right.
And rarely do they go really this deep to help people with these greater issues that I think are coming up for people, especially after the past couple of years, where these things that they were doing before just aren't working. You
Mm,
know.
no, well said. It's the amount of guys, regardless of where we start on the story, I've had a handful of guys who make big career or life shifts because, circling back to intuition, they realize that they've been out of alignment with who they truly are. And Joel Cochran asked me the first time that I was on his podcast, and this is going on 2 years ago now. What is the hell that you solve? And so when you look a grown man in the eye, somebody who you think has done the things, and you ask him if he knows who he actually is, and he glosses over a little bit and looks like he might cry and says quietly and almost shaking, "No, that's what I solve." Because then you can be as fit as you want, and guess what? That fitness level might not be what you as fit as you thought you wanted it to be, because you found yourself.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Thank you.
And the fitness that you're finding is a whole new type of fitness. It's not a competitive, it's not, you're not comparing yourself to anybody. So it's just where you're at and what you feel
Exactly.
comfortable with and what you love about yourself. So yeah, that's powerful, Chase. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I would love to hear more about what you're discovering in your program as well, what you want to share about it, how you want to share your offerings as well today on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for the chance. So I do have, the 12-week Primal Man Pathway program on Kajabi. It's a video course, and you'll get all the tools. Like, I give guys tools and exercises to use them, and you can integrate them into your life as you see fit after, you try the integration exercises I give. Uh, that being said, I also have one-on-one coaching. I am separating that course from my personal coaching for the means of, hey, if you guys want it, come get it. It'll be significantly cheaper than what it's been in the past, investment wise. And then once you're ready to truly find everything that we've talked about here on the show, come talk to me. If you feel like you'll have most all the tools from the course, and there's a certain something to be said for having a guide to go through any journey. So I am separating that out as we speak, creating a separate offer where it's only the course and no one-on-one calls. You'll get access to our community and everything. Um, Other than that, I have, the Mystical Giants on Spotify. Search up that album name if you're trying to get a little more of a feel of the philosophy. And other than that, it's the coaching is geared towards men. I do have female clients. I have a handful, and geared towards guys. I've never had a period, so unless women come and ask me to coach them, I I fully will admit that I don't understand the female psyche as much as a woman does. So, uh,
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
and yeah,
yeah, and I as well, I don't know how to teach a man how to be a man because, I'm not a man, so
yeah, exactly.
so
I've
there you
had
go.
some I've had some women reach out, and at the end of the day, if somebody feels aligned with the choice that they're making, like I'm here for it. You're gonna get the best results from working with the person that you want to work with. Um, and most of my clients are men.
Yeah. What was it? What was the thing you mentioned? Mystical.
Mystical Giants. That's the name of my Spotify album.
You have an album. Wow.
Yeah, it's a philosophy album.
So explain,
That's a Mike
please
Schwartz creation.
expand on that.
Yeah.
What, are you talking on it? Are you singing on it? What are you doing?
It's more spoken word. Have you heard Akira the Don at all? He remixes like Jordan Peterson and Alan Watts.
Oh, yeah.
And
I
he
have
puts it to
heard
like
those.
lo-fi chill hop beats.
Hmm.
Yeah. So Mike reached out to me going on a year ago, uh, on and lifted like 90 minutes of acid session or something. And he's like, "Hey man, you say a lot of cool stuff. What would you think about putting that to some music?" So it's literally like me reading some of my journal entries from like psychedelic journaling entries and whatnot. Um, the entry that started this all, it starts off, the first line of it is, some people go into the world to find themselves, and some people go into themselves to find their world. Um, so
Wow.
things like that. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Thank you. The whole album ends with the line, "Will you be the man that gave the gifts or the guide that gave his presence?" So
I love that.
thank you.
That's
So,
powerful. Well, do you still do psychedelics that often, or is it still part of your practice?
oh, great question. Because I almost sprinkled this in a couple places there. Uh, Psychedelics have been instrumental in my journey, and any of my clients that are open, I help implement psilocybin mushroom microdosing protocols. I am actively microdosing mushrooms every once in a while at night, along with ayahuasca, the bee cappy vine, just the non psychedelic portion of ayahuasca. Um, and I have a story. And how are we on?
We're
Do
good.
we have a couple minutes for a
As
story?
long as you have the time, I have the time.
Okay. So about 48 hours after I started this ayahuasca microdose, a feminine essence comes to me in my dream and essentially runs me through ceremony and says, "Pick a spirit number." I said 3443, which is weird. Like, I not a number that I feel called to usually. I was like, "No, wait, 22. And I said 22 twice, right? I thought I was only saying it like 22. Later in the dream, I'm like in a gym because, I have to be put in an area that this makes sense. So I'm in a gym, like getting prepped for like some intro class. I'm a client there, and they give me a lock for a locker. And on the back of it, the code is 2222 to unlock it. So keep those numbers, put a pin in those. I've been going through something that I was unaware that like I was actually going through. One of my buddies who stood my wedding, we've been drifting apart for a couple of years. Just I've been going on this path. He's been staying on the path that we were on, So
Mhm.
um, I'm sure you've seen that. And we we were together for the 4th of July with the big group, everybody who knows each other. Then we come back, and I thought we left on good terms, and then I'm blocked on Instagram. I'm blocked. I realized that he's out of the Snapchat group chat. So that day after I had that dream, without looking into those numbers, I decided to send him a text. I realize I'm blocked. So I send him an email. I say, hey, man, I realize I'm blocked everywhere. I'm always here to have an open conversation if you ever want to. Sending love to you and the wife. So then I look up 3443. 3443, when you look it up as a spirit number, means generous love.
Wow.
So that was cool. Now, wait for it. My other buddy, who knows about what was going on, texted me the next day, said, hey, did you hear back from him? It's like, huh, that email inbox gets kind of crowded. I'm going to go search his name. Do you want to guess the date of the last email I had from him? 2222.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
Oh my God.
um, things happen in my dreams. Psychedelics have been instrumental in accepting that those things are happening. You know, when I was 4 years old, I had a recurring dream of being chased through the woods by something in a hat and a cloak. And then when I tripped over a log and I looked back at it, and as it jumped, it shape shifted into a tiger and hit me. And when you look at the symbolism behind tigers and spirit animals and protection, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Um, and I've seen like shadows out of the corner of my eye for my whole life. Like something's there. Oh no, it's not there. Um, Psychedelics have opened me up to like, okay, this is something. And I'm a firm believer, as long as we're on psychedelics, that if we aerosolized 5-MeO DMT and spread it over the capitals of the world, we could solve most all the problems.
Yes. God, they need that badly, don't they? I don't even know if that would help, but maybe.
Well, you know, and I'm like, yeah, dose with consent. And at this point, like, it's either going to break the politicians or bring them onto the light side. Either way, we're going to be looking good.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, that's an amazing story. A quick question about something you mentioned about ayahuasca. You said you don't do the hallucinogenic part
Yeah.
or
So
psychedelic? Okay.
there's two vines, and there's actually, so this company is called Soul Vine. And I actually, you know, if you want to try it, let me know. I have a code for I think like 10% off.
Okay.
Um, but you know, there's one vine that has the DMT, and then there's another vine that has the MAOI that helps the DMT metabolize slower. And there's also in their tradition, there's a lot of medicine in that second vine as well. There's actually more of the essence of Mother Aya in that vine.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so and they make these batches on full moons and bless them and everything. And
Wow.
yeah,
Do they put them in the little bottles? How do
yeah, so
they
it's a little
I think I'm
tincture and
familiar
drop
with
it under.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And does
So
so you don't hallucinate on it, it's just kind of it just brings you
no.
into a higher state of awareness is what it sounds like? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
So because it is an MAOI though, when you combine it with like a psilocybin microdose, it can really open you up to travel in your dreams.
Wow, okay, I already do a lot of that, but I mean, that would be kinda neat to
Yeah.
try. Yeah, very cool. Well, thank you so much, Chase. This has been an amazing conversation.
Of course, yeah.
I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah. I know. That's a lot of fun. I was like, oh wow, we're already in an hour. Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. And if you want to leave everybody with how they can find you again and anything when your next program's coming up or it sounds like you're moving more into one-on-one training. Is that true? Yeah, or
Yeah, you know, I'm actually I'm moving into one-on-one with like community calls. So you sign up with me, you'll get 12-month access to community calls. Um, and then, you know, even if you just buy the program, we'll do community calls monthly or twice monthly for a year. Um,
okay,
and
that's
then,
cool.
yeah, and then one-on-one will be uh, available for anybody that's truly ready to make the change. Uh, to get in touch with me, Instagram at coach_chase_tollison. Um, TikTok is the same handle. I'm making moves on there. I got a couple buddies that have 100,000, 400,000 followers, and they're giving me some tips.
Very
Uh,
cool.
and then chasetollison.com. You can sign up for my emails there. I send out authentic emails a couple times a week. My one that went out on Sunday morning was very, very raw, something that I thought, should I really press send? I got multiple people. That was the best email I read all year. So,
Wow, that's
yeah.
great. It's great when you get that kind of feedback on your newsletter.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, you're doing so much good work, Chase, and it's really wonderful to be connected with you. And such a pleasure to talk with you today. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. It's a blast.
Yeah, thank you, Chase. Oop, my mouse is not moving. Oh, there it goes. All right.